Welcome to Sim Sundays podcast. Once again, we're here with this guest is one that I am super excited about. And unfortunately, this is one that I wasn't able to attend. So I'm hoping that you got a couple of those questions that I gave you in on the interview. But how would you say this one went? And who was this one with?
Well, we had Morris Hebecker, who's founder of Rennsport, which is one of the most highly anticipated sim racing games for years. I think the next iteration of Assetto Corsa is maybe close competition, maybe tied for the most like hotly anticipated new sim racing game coming out. Now, the interesting thing about Rennsport, of course, is that we've seen it being raced at ESL R1. So there was quite a lot to discuss here about the like how did Morris start a racing game studio? He's going to publish it himself. They've already got a partnership with ESL before the game even comes out. How was that to manage? Like, do we mention the NFTs? Like, all this sort of stuff. Like, we kind of went into all of this stuff in real detail, and he was fantastic. The answers he gave made so much sense, and I think it's given a really clear picture of what Rennsport is about, where it's going. And you know what? I love it. I think it's really, really adventurous. I like that it's trying to do something new. It's trying to break the mold. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed having this conversation with Morris. So thank you, Morris, if you're listening, for taking the time to join us on the podcast, and enjoy. So Morris, thank you so much for joining us on the Sim Sundays podcast. You are quite clearly incredibly busy because you founded a racing game. Where the hell do you start with creating your own racing game? There must be so much to it.
Definitely, yes. To be honest, if I would know 3 years ago what it means to set up a company doing this kind of project, I'm not sure if I would start again, because I just had a call today with the team and I said, to be honest, there are so many things with that which definitely were not in my mind when it comes to creating these kind of companies. But but the good thing is, in the beginning, you always have the vision and the great idea, and you always have the feeling, okay, that will be an easy way. So we have this fantastic idea. Let's start, and that's it. The world waits for us. But building a big company with all the structures, hiring the right people, setting up the things, getting all the licenses, and so on and so on. There's so many things. Is really a hard way. But it is worth to do, to be honest. When it comes to the beginning, there was an idea which came into my mind when I saw sim racing on Twitch and YouTube. Most of them were on iRacing, and I was really fascinated and said, "Oh, that's nice digital motorsport, great pictures, nice broadcast." What games are around, and there was Assetto and so on, and then I double checked a bit, and I've got the feeling, so maybe we can do something with these kind of games to create a new sport on these kind of games, or create something new for digital motorsport. And then I realized, okay, maybe it's not that easy. So I know how publishers work, and I know how games industry work, because I'm coming from the games industry. And it was quite clear with the ideas we had in mind, there is no way to come together with an existing publisher, because they've definitely other focus or other interest. And so then it was clear to say, okay, if we would realize the ideas we have in mind, or if we really would bring it to life, then we have to create an own game. And at this moment, it was a bit like, okay, that will be a long journey, but it also brings a lot of opportunities starting from scratch. And so that's how it started. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's nuts. It must be incredibly daunting when you first set out and you decide, right, we're gonna make a racing game. So I recently went to the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, and I spoke to a lot of indie game studios, and they had to have like 5 to 7 people, and they tell us about the process. They've got 3 programmers, a designer, and then they've got somebody who's doing the relationship with the publisher. That was somebody that I spoke to quite a lot, was the founder of Circuit Superstars, Carolina Mastretta. And they're a very small team, 5 to 7 people, and they make this kind of top-down racing game. But there's just so much to do. And, when you look at Rennsport, you've got licensing of the cars and then licensing of the tracks. And I want to get into all of this. And I've got some questions about the cars, about the tracks, about the licensing process, because I'm just genuinely interested. And I think a lot of people listening will be very interested in the mechanics of how you go about creating a new game, because we've not had a new game that's this scale, I would say, for quite a long time. So it'll be interesting to see this kind of up-to-date view of how you go about building it. But before all of that, I'd love to learn the story of how you got to where you are now. So you don't, not just anybody can just be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do a racing game. I'm sure I can find the millions of pounds and the talented people to design it and program it. And I've got some friends at Porsche and Mercedes, and I can get the licensing. Like, there's clearly a whole raft of experience and stuff that you've done in the past, which has led you to be at this point where you're the best person to create Rennsport as the concepts exist today. So if we can go back to the first time you would say you were doing a role which is now contributing towards Rennsport as it is now. So back in the past, the jobs that you were previously doing that are relevant to Rennsport.
Yeah, to be honest, I would say 95% of my working life is related to the games industry. So I had 1 year before I start in the gaming industry when I worked for a not gaming company, and that was Black & Decker. They are doing all the machines, from homes.
That's so random.
So I had a 1 year contract there, and they tried to hire me for a longer time, and I said no. At the end, I said, okay, no. It was a great journey, and it was really interesting working together. And at this time, a former colleague called me and said, "Hey, I'm working for a gaming company, and we are hiring. Would you be interested to be part of this crazy team?" And I said, "Oh, what? Gaming industry? What the hell are you doing there?" And they explained a bit, and then they invited me. And I said, "Wow, that's great." And there was Acclaim Entertainment at these days. It was mid-90s. They had an office here in Munich, and the company grows a lot. I think it was the first listed Nasdaq gaming company. A lot of great titles, and everything worked perfect. So things sold by their own. I have no idea why they need a marketing or sales department at these days. So it was really just fun working there, to be honest. And that was my starting point in the gaming industry. And after leaving Acclaim, I joined the Codemasters team. So I worked for Codemasters several years, and that was the first time that I really was in contact with games I really like. And that was Toka Racing. We at this time we released DTM Racing and a lot of great racing games. We had Colin McRae Racing and so on. And at this time, I really fell in love with racing games. And to be honest, it's the only genre in the gaming area which I really love extremely. And after working for Codemasters several years, I quit and decided, hey, I would like to set up my own publisher. And it was, I think, the first crazy idea in my life. And I took all the money I got from the share options I had from Codemasters and all the saved money I had, and I put it in this small company. And I set up this small publisher in 2004 or 5, I think. And luckily, it went quite well. So we could sign a lot of great projects. We could sign a lot of great studios, and that was really also a super exciting time. And I built this company over years until I would say 2016 2015, and then I was a bit bored of all the gaming things. Over the time, we also start developing mobile games and all these things. And then I was out of the gaming industry for 2-3 years with other projects I was interested in. And then as I said, I saw iRacing, I saw broadcast of digital motorsport. I was in contact for another project with one of the automobile companies. And so it starts to come up with the idea, hey, come on, let's do something. And it would be great to start from zero, build a team, build a complete new game. And that was the starting point, I would say 2019, 2018 for the Rennsport project. And to be honest, you said it before, handling all these things, you can't imagine what it means when you are just, and in the beginning we were just 2 or 3 in the team, and I had some guys working for me from another company of mine, so just helping us, contacting all the licensing guys, building up relationships to the automotive partners, starting to build a studio, hiring external partners for content, other things, building this network or things with just 2 or 3 was, for the first 12-16 months, really a hard job, and it took a lot of money and energy, to be honest.
It's a really interesting business model. A kind of every gaming business like yours that wants to achieve this kind of scale, you kind of inherently you can't avoid risk, right? Because you have to build such a huge team. You have to invest so much time in developing the content, the content and the relationships and the licenses before you can even get to testing, right? So you have to put in a huge amount of time and money before you really know if you're, to use a phrase, building something people want. So what was that like? Was there an element when you were kind of, 6 months, 12 months in, and obviously there was still nothing to play yet, where you were like, "Ooh, we've put a lot. This really has to work now."
Definitely, and I think there are always kind of milestones when you look back over the last 3 years. There were always some kind of milestones. First of all, we started really writing an game design document, really being prepared and bringing together all our ideas and really showing potential dev guys joining us what we are really planning to do. And then it's always creating presentations for your idea, just making slides. Then we decide, okay, it would be great to do a kind of trailer to explain a bit what it means to create digital motorsport and so on. And this time you are thinking about all these steps, because creating a trailer at this moment, and we said, when we do it, we have to make a high quality trailer. At this, it was cost 12,000 euros, something like this. But it was okay. That's a huge part of our amount for the next 6 months. And then the next moment was really, okay, we showed the project to several partners. They said, yeah, we are interested. But to be honest, you just have some slides. You have no studio, you have no team, you have no licenses, you have nothing. To be honest, we love your idea, Morris, but come back when you have signed things and when you are more stable and when you could show things. And then you always have this time frame where you think, okay, that is now really hard and the risk is really fucking high. You have to spend all your money to deliver something, not only having the slide, you have to deliver something. And that was the first decision, to say, okay, we invest a bigger amount of money in a small team to create a prototype, really to show the game, to show what we would like to do. And therefore you need minimum 1 or 2 cars and you need 1 racetrack. And I remember I spoke to the racetracks and I said, okay, you could be the first one, but I have no guarantee that the game will ever be there, because we are just working on a showcase or on a tech presentation. Would it be okay for you if we create the racetrack and if we show it on our own risk? we know we do not have a license, but just to have something. And that's the way it always works. So then we could create the prototype, and we showed it to some partners, and they said, wow, you are able to create it, and here's the game, we can drive it. And then we showed it to some real world drivers, and they drove it in the simulator, and they said, hey, it feels really good. What the hell have you done in just 7 months, and with that kind of small team? And so we had always these milestones, and it's interesting to talk about, because always a lot of risk, and then you could show something, people trust you, jump in, and then you could do the next step and the next step. So that's how it worked over the last years.
Yeah, and it's absolutely fascinating, especially in the gaming world, because you kind of, when you're pitching this game to people, and you're pitching in order so that you can get a publishing deal and you can get some funding so that you can go and build it. There's a point before the game is built where they truly are investing in an idea. Okay, so there's nothing to play yet. There's nothing, there's nothing concrete, as you said. There's no licenses, so they're investing their money. They're essentially gambling based on the strength of a concept and an idea, and that fascinates me. And because game investment is inherently always pre-revenue. You're not investing in a company that is making money because they haven't even made the game which will make the money in the future. So it's like super high risk. So when you're going to publishers and investors, etc., with Rennsport, the project, if you could boil it down, what was the key concept that you were really pitching? Because they will know that Formula One exists, Assetto Corsa exists, iRacing exists, and you have to prove right away that what you're doing is different. So what was that key differentiator that you put forward to these people?
For me, what was always super clear what is different in our project. But when it comes to create a presentation just with 5 or 6 slides and explaining it, and worst case, without having the chance talking about, just sending it to a person, then it's really hard to create it, to be honest. At the end, I'm not 100% sure if we today have the perfect presentation for the project we are working on. I'm always, from time to time, got the feeling we have to work on our presentation, because I've got the feeling we are not 100% on the point what we would like to explain. And we definitely work on our presentation every quarter, because there's always something to adjust, and the presentation gets better and better. In the beginning, there were several things. I think we had a very early, a very strong team on board, which a lot of people from the gaming industry, a lot of experience in the gaming industry when it comes to our CTO, worked for Ubisoft and Massive. When it comes to our licensing guy in the US with Adam, he worked for Activision, and then for a very long time for Microsoft. So he was involved in the Sforza franchise and so on. I think these very senior management team, and also a part from the automotive industry, from the motorsport sector, really giving us all the experience we really needed to create the digital motorsport we would like to have, and which is really good for the automotive partners and so on. So the one thing definitely was creating a good team, senior team, experienced team, and then explaining your vision in the best possible way, which is not always easy.
No, 100%. I can completely relate to that. Our business as well, Good Finder, we don't make any money, and we're raising a second round based on the vision and team. And it's really interesting that you're talking about the strength of the team. So it sounds to me like you've put together this team of experts who get the space, they get sim racing, they get motorsport, they get gaming. And I want to get onto some stuff about what we're actually doing here in terms of like ESL and stuff, because it's all fascinating to me. But it's interesting that it sounds like the key value proposition that you were selling to investors is essentially the concept of your racing game, but more than that, the team that you've got. So it's basically saying, look, I have this incredible team that I've got all this talent. We get motorsport with this vision aligned with this team. We can create something. And actually, most companies, their first vision is not actually that similar to what they end up pushing out, because a good company will constantly test and adjust and test and fail and test and fail and test and fail, and be very willing to fail at tests in order to be able to constantly adjust to what the market wants. So have there been points along this journey in the last couple of years where the vision has kind of altered with either feedback from publishers or feedback from users or even feedback from within your own team when you're looking at the market?
First, we are not that close with any publisher because we will self-publish the game, definitely, with maybe a strong platform behind which we'll use, but at the end we will self-publish. So there's no publisher invested in our overall project. But you're 100% right. You start with the vision, and then you always optimize what you have in mind. Sometimes you get feedback from the community that they say these or that parts are not interesting for us, and we had it in our concept as a very strong part we definitely need. On the other hand, to be honest, we're working on the project since 4 years. The market changed extremely.
Yeah.
And you had a super hype with all these blockchain NFT stuff and so on. And during the overall process, when we start, we didn't have it on mind. For example, we start with the idea, and we said in our ecosystem, each car will have his own identity, his own number, his own VIN number, so that we can create digital twins of real world cars in all the ways you could imagine. That was a dream of mine, bringing real world cars in the digital world and having them there forever. And that was the base idea. We created very, very early, 4 years ago. We have old slides, and sometimes we bring them out and we say, okay, the main ideas are all on these slides. Several things changed a bit, how we will use it from technical side, or how we will handle it, but the main ideas are still there. So creating this environment where you have unique items which you cost most of the time, which you could combine with sporting, where you can build history and on the same time really start building a digital motorsport league with ESL R1, which is the pinnacle of our sporting system. So it's a super complex thing. And that's what I said. When you start presenting your idea, they all said, hey, it's okay for us when you create a game, but what the hell are you talking about? There are so many other things. Do you really think you could do it? It's super complex. And we said, yeah, but that's the chance to do the next level or create really a new genre, which is maybe not a racing game in 10 years, which is a car enthusiast environment or whatever, and which enables us to connect real world with digital world and so on. And to be honest, we are not talking about an NFT game or something like this. The platform we have could handle all these stuff without any blockchain or NFT. I wouldn't say that there will be business cases for NFTs and blockchain also in the gaming industry in the future. To be honest, there will be there, but we are not planning with that at the moment, not internally on.
Yeah, and of course, I was obviously going to kind of get onto that, and I think there's the whole roller coaster I think that Rennsport has been through with the NFTs. I think a lot of people thought, okay, that's a great idea, but then a lot of people there is not just Rennsport and not even just gaming, but there is kind of widespread skepticism, I think, with a lot of people when it comes to NFTs and blockchains, and it's not Rennsport's fault or gaming's fault. It's just the fact that there's a lot of scams in NFTs. There's a lot of horror stories, and of course, the crypto market has crashed, and so there is a little skepticism there. But so I don't really want to go into that in too much detail, because I think it's very obvious what the opportunities were and are still in the future with NFTs and digital twins of cars. Like that's it's a freaking awesome concept. The idea of being able to have a single car that has a unique identity that you can transport around different tracks, maybe even different games. You can trade them. It makes total sense. I don't think anybody would dispute that. So what I do want to ask then is, when Rennsport.gg went up and you had that phrase in there, digital ownership, and Twitter blew up, and there was a lot of debate. There's a lot of people saying, oh, it's an NFT game, it's a scam, blah, 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 blah. Like, how does that feel? Because I have absolutely no doubt in my mind, and I think most reasonable people have no doubt in their mind, that what you were doing was trying to come up with a really cool idea that people would love. But obviously there was a lot of backlash. So how did that feel when you saw that?
We were in the stealth mode for a very long time, and at a certain point we said, okay, we have to show the game, because we were hiring a lot at this moment, and it was really hard because people say, where's your project? What the hell are you doing? We cannot find you. And we said, okay, now that's the moment to release a website and show that we are there, and really explain a bit what the project is. For me, it was totally clear at this moment, when we are not in the stealth mode again, it will stop, that we can work super relaxed, that we can have our idea, bringing teams together, creating our thing. Then you're official there. And to be honest, we released the website, and it was really late, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I came home and I said to me, okay, wow, now it's out. And then I made a huge mistake. I jumped on the internet and I double checked a bit what happened on all the channels and so on. And to be honest, there were things like another NFT scam shit. They tried to raise money with just 2 slides. And all the guys writing this couldn't imagine that we work on these things since 2.5 years, day and night, a lot of people. And really, I start writing, you're fucking asshole. What do you think you are? We are working on this since such a long time. What is in your mind that you really send out these kind of posts? But then I stopped and I said, no, I cannot start doing these things. It will be there forever, and people will not stop reacting on this. But I really, it was for me, it was a strange feeling. It was clear you always get some weird feedback when you start a project. But it was when you are in this project for such a long time, it's for sure a baby, and then you feel, okay, you have to protect it, and you're not happy when you read these kind of things. But over time, all good. And on the other hand, to be honest, it's super fair. We come from zero. No one knows us as a publisher. No one knows us as a game developer, as a developing studio, whatever. And we pop up and say, hey, we will do the next big thing in racing. It's also, okay, you could be skeptical, to be honest.
Yeah, but it's ambitious. It is really ambitious, which I think is exciting, and I do think that there is a psyche, a mentality, a group of people who will always criticize somebody who's got ambition. And I think it would be almost. You were saying there that you were responding to the tweets. You know,
I started writing
quite like emotion.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't actually send
them.
I
didn't
okay,
send,
interesting.
To be honest, I write several times. Then I stopped and not send it. I rewrite, and I made it better and better. And at the end, I felt really good. And then I said, no, I will not send it. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, it would be impossible to suppress emotion about like any startup founder is so emotionally attached to their startup, because as you clearly know, it's your whole world. When you do one of these startups, it becomes your identity. You were saying you wanted to create cars with digital twins. I kind of think the startup founders are almost like their startup is a digital twin of themselves. Like, you're so intimately connected with what it is you're building. So if somebody criticizes it's very difficult to not take that personally, I would say.
No, yes, but on the other hand, you have to be professional. If someone criticizes, all good. I said we come from zero, and then it's. I think it is, as you say, Tom. You at this moment, you know exactly what it means. So you work at this project in 3 years. You invested a lot of your private money. So because you believe in the idea, and to be honest, I'm not the youngest of us. I'm 50 plus, and I have 2 young kids at home. And that's, to be honest, the biggest thing for me. I always think about, okay, you're working so many hours. You're sitting in the office, you're with your team and so on. And this time you don't have for your kids at home. And that's, I think, the biggest invest you give in the overall project, deciding that most of your time is for the company at the moment. And then if you then read these kind of things where people write bullshit, knowing nothing about me or the project or whatever, that makes you, that makes you angry, to be honest. But
Yeah.
it's okay.
I think, and I want to move on, but I honestly think it's a symptom of like a really good founder because you're so passionate. I think I don't know. You'd have to be a robot, I think, to detach yourself from that sort of kind of emotive criticism. And anyway, so I think the digital ownership idea in racing 100% has a place. It's coming. It's going to be a thing. Like whether people like it or not, like the digital ownership, NFTs, blockchains, there's huge advantages to it. I think it's coming, and I can clearly see the benefits. For racing games, and I'm excited because why not test it? Why not try it? Let's see.
To be honest, Tom, when you look at the old sim racing world, and when it comes to all these big IPs, automotive companies, Ferrari, BMW, and so on, blockchain, digital ownership, however you handle it from technical side, will completely change the situation when it comes to licensing and possibilities to sell their own brand and be involved in this process. So this will create such a great new universe, and for the customers as well, so they can own the goods and then digital twins, all the things you could do. For me, that will be amazing what we will see over the next 5-10 years when it comes to that kind of things.
Yeah, I think I fundamentally believe it's an issue of timing more than anything else in a more macro sense. In the term, it generally consumers have gone on a kind of up and then down when it's come to NFTs, and then that's just reflected in all of any project which. Because the other thing is, and I said I wasn't going to keep going on about this, but the thing about blockchain NFT technology is that it doesn't have to define a game. It doesn't have to be like a game that has this capability built within it. So the digital twins of cars, right? That doesn't have to define the game. It can just be something that is enhancing the experience within the game, which is also great for a number of other reasons. So it's not like if you don't like NFTs, you won't like this game. You don't even have to know that they're NFTs. You just get to experience the advantage of the functions that it gives you.
Exactly. And to be honest, when it comes to Rennsport, you could split completely the digital ownership world we create on our platform from the pure racing game. So if it comes to a point, we could say, okay, there's a great racing game we create connected to our platform, and there's an overall digital ownership world connected to our platform, and all available on the mobile device and so on. So if a customer or a user says, hey, digital ownership is nothing I would like to have, I do not want to be involved in any digital ownership thing, he can use Rennsport just as a game as it is. So it is open. But I'm quite sure every person who will try it and really understand a bit what value is in these kind of things will love it in the next years, definitely. And to be honest, the most important thing is that the product shows the value of the idea and how you could work with it. And then people have to trust the overall idea and what they get. And then it's clear.
And it's frustrating that people criticize before they get to experience the additional benefits that they get from using this system. It's that the old phrase is, if you ask people 100 years ago how they'd like to get around better, they'd have said, I want a faster horse, not I want a car, because cars work. They didn't know, the benefits of what a car was. They didn't know that it existed. So exactly. You know what I say? I say, screw the haters, be adventurous. I'm going to move on because I think we could talk about this for the whole podcast. But talking of adventurous, one of the big things that you splash on the website is the fact that you're going to be racing, that the racing platform will be built on Unreal Engine 5. Now, some people listening will know what that is, some people won't. It's essentially a graphics engine. Luckily at GDC, I got to see a demonstration of what they were building with it, and it was insane. But let's go a level higher. So what? What does this mean for drivers who are going to be playing the game? What will they get to experience with Unreal Engine 5 that they wouldn't with just another a graphics engine? Why is this something that you want to shout about?
So we start with Unreal Engine 4, and we made our tech showcase on Unreal Engine 4, and when we decided really to start the full production for Rennsport, very early we talked to the Unreal guys and said, okay, is it possible to jump on Unreal 5 at this moment? And said, okay, you will have a lot of problems, but if you jump now on Unreal 5, all the options are with you over the next 10 years. And that's exactly what we also had on, which was also our feeling, that we said, okay, if we now take the risk and jump on Unreal 5, it will pay out in 2, 3, 4 years. And to be honest, Unreal 5 will create outstanding graphic when it comes just to the simulation or to the broadcast we are creating out of the game. Unreal 5, on the other hand, opens up a lot of options for us when it comes to business relationships and working with partners. Look, the most of the automobile companies having their car creators, they're offering to our customers based on Unreal 5. So if you build your own car, at the end you get an Unreal 5 rendering of the car you build, and that should motivate you to buy the car. And to be honest, it's not that far away to do the next step and say, okay, take the Unreal 5 model we have and bring it to Rennsport and have it on Rennsport. So same with all the movie things. So most of the things there are created in Unreal environment. So and you said it, what Unreal showed on GC, it's amazing when it comes to building environments and so on. And as you know, modding and modding tools are a very, very important part of the overall Rennsport idea. And to be honest, I deeply believe that we'll have when it comes to digital ownership and blockchain, it is this new world where we say, okay, let's look back in 5 years, which doors it opens and which great experience it brought to the customers. And I think the same we will have with the possibility of Unreal 5, which will be massive, which may be some parts of AI, and then which massive possibilities we will have for modders or other guys creating worlds for not only Rennsport, other games as well. So I think that will be also a huge part of our project, and also for the future when it comes to gaming. So creating content from the modding community will be a big part for all games and for us as well.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the benefits are clear as day. There, the enhanced graphics from a user point of view, being able to see something which looks a lot more realistic. Like, these games are beautiful. Let's be fair. The videos that we've seen so far look great. So the Unreal 5 renderings that I've seen so far are absolutely incredible. I hadn't really thought about the options that it opens with partners who are already creating Unreal 5, and that's really interesting. And mods, I completely agree. Assetto Corsa is legendary amongst sim racers. It's 15 years old. It's being kept alive by mods, and it's so important to embrace that.
Definitely. And also, this was a vision we had from the beginning, creating a great mod environment. And that's what I learned over my past years with my own company. The most successful title we released there were games where you had a very strong modding part, and where the community really can create content for the game you have. And for me, it's always there are three, I would say, pillars over time in the gaming industry. You have the early years where you had these huge studios creating content for a game, and all paid by the publisher or by the team. And then you had the area where the community and the sandbox games were there. So the community creates all the content for the games, but had no chance to monetize what they did. So the publisher sold the base, the game, and I would say the community content was always pushing the game, but not pushing the monetization in the community. And that's a thing we definitely also have in Rennsport and as a milestone on our platform, that we will not be giving the tools to create very easy the content, also bringing content on the platform and be able to monetize what you have done.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see how that works, how that plays out, and presumably that will kind of will kind of get phased in over time through the roadmap. Now, talking of the roadmap, there's been some chat about the choice of cars that you started with on Rennsport. So, the phrase again, it's lazy, it's tiresome, but people say it's another GT3 game, and clearly, you only have to look at the website to see this is clearly not only another GT3 game, but. And I know that I was doing a lot of research and speaking to the guys at Traction GG, and during one of the interviews with them, you said about that potentially looking at open wheelers, historic cars, etc. So my question isn't, is this going to be another GT3 game? Because clearly it's not. But why start with GT3 cars? And when you decided that you were going to start with GT3 cars, did you expect people to kind of say, "Oh, it's another GT3 game"?
It was clear, and when we decided to do it, it was also clear. All people said to me, "You're fucking stupid. The biggest competitor you have, or one of the competitors, Assetto Corsa, and they did such a great GT3 game." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. Maybe not super clever what we are doing here, but on the
Well,
other
that's
hand,
honest.
to be honest, we were super close with ESL, as you said, and with the automobile partners from the beginning." We always had in our vision to create these sporting and start with ESLR1. And therefore, it was quite clear with all the feedback from the partners and so on, they would like to have something where they all could come together. And GT3, to be honest, was the best way bringing them together, creating a sporting environment. But as I said several times, this was just the starting point for us. So we will have concept cars, we will have history cars, open wheelers. For me, I would like to have all the historical cars which are in museums out there and bringing them into the games and connecting them with the digital ownership. But yeah, and so you could imagine there are so many things you could do. This is the part of the game where, to be honest, I would love to sit the whole day with the team and just creating ideas and talking about what could be the next step.
It's the fun bit, right?
Talking about which game, which car would you like to have next, and so on. And we will do a keynote on the summit in June this year. And to be honest, at this summit this year, last year we started with the drivers, and we showed the game to the drivers first and got their feedback. And this year definitely we will start to tell the story what we are planning with all the modding things, with all the content things and so on. And there we definitely will tell a bit more when what kind of content will be in the game and available.
Yeah, and any I suppose you've mentioned open wheelers, you've mentioned historic cars, so we're looking at like Assetto Corsa there, and R Factor 2 does a bit. But what about for like our American listeners, especially oval racing or dirt rally, etc.? Any kind of ambition to go into that space, or does it not fit the brand?
To be honest, I love rally games because Colin McRae was the thing where we started half an hour ago. I love rally games, and I would love to have a rally segment of Rennsport, definitely. I don't know if I could say it, but yeah, we have a modding track in Rennsport at the moment, and we are tweaking the physics in this way that we have our own rally part there, and we are on a quite good way, to be honest, far away to release a special rally part or whatever. But yeah, that are all things I would love to have in Rennsport over time, definitely.
Well, it sounds like this is a foundation upon which you'll build over the next 10, 15 years, as opposed to this isn't a franchise coming out every year. So the possibilities are therefore endless. And just talking about content, and I want to go on to the ESL R1 tournament and the beta and blah 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 blah. Before we do, I'd just like to chat about content a little bit. There's 4 tracks available on Rennsport at the moment, or not available, obviously, that have been built for the testers. You've got the Goodwood Hill Climb, Hockenheim Ring, Nürburgring, and Spa. My question is, how do you catch up with your competitors? Because building these tracks takes time. You know, the iRacing does these incredible laser scans. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money. Then they have to build them into the game. You have to create the graphics, etc. So these aren't small tasks. And obviously, iRacing comes out with new tracks all the time. ACC is bringing out DLC packs, etc. So how do you intend to kind of catch up, I suppose, because you're going to have to. I don't know if you have a number in mind of how many tracks you think you need as a minimum for launch, but it's probably more than 4.
Definitely, we cannot release the game with 4 racetracks. Rennsport is definitely an ongoing game as a service project. So from the release on, there will be added content all the time, constantly. And to be honest, that's one thing. If you start from zero, you cannot start with 100 racetracks or 400 cars or whatever. We definitely will have a reasonable amount of racetracks and cars by beginning of next year. And next year, definitely we will start to give the game behind the beta. So I wouldn't say it's a release, but a kind of release. And there, at this point, there will be a reasonable amount of racetracks there and also cars. So we're working hard. And we are getting better and better, really, when it comes to creating cars on the level we would like to have them. So if you have a look on the trailer of the cars, they are modded in such a high detail you haven't seen before when it comes to racing games. So we have a super high level when it comes to cars and racetracks. But definitely, there will be a thing where we will have to speed up a bit, and also where we not will have the amount of racetracks as iRacing has for the next 2-3 years. Definitely not. I'm quite sure all the possibilities and the tools when it comes to modding will help us a lot to scale with the content. But on the other hand, we also from our in-house development will bring a lot of new racetracks over the next months. And to be honest, with the summit in June, we definitely will have 4 or 5 new cars we will show there, and also new racetracks.
Exciting times. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the beta itself. What's the process? What process have you chosen, and why? And how's it going?
So definitely the process we will have when we start with the beta, and to be honest, that's the next big thing where we all are focused on, because we definitely know there are so many people on the wait list, and that's the only thing we have in our Discord channels all the time, that they ask, okay, all nice, all good what you're doing there, but when could we have the beta? And that's, we heard it, to be honest. But we need our time really to make it ready. And the overall team is really focused to finalize the beta. We would like to release as soon as possible. And to be honest, wait till the summit, and I think there we can show exactly how it will look like and when it will be ready. And I'm quite sure it will not be that far away.
Yeah, and it must be like a really tricky kind of like PR process almost to kind of keep managing people's expectations, because you want people to be constantly excited about what's coming out. And in order to do that, they have to either see new content or, even better, actually be able to play it themselves. So give us like a bit of a behind the scenes look into the point at which you decided to delay the public beta. So obviously it was going to be out earlier this year, and then the decision was made that you were going to delay it. And obviously I'd like to chat about the R1 event as well, and how that ties into this timeline. But give us a bit of a sense of what the team were going through at the point at which you decided to delay that public beta.
To be honest, what we are doing here is really different to all the productions we did before. Normally, you have a production line or development milestone where you really focus on the game and you do several things at a certain point. And when it comes to stage whatever, you start optimizing the game for alpha, beta, whatever. So you have a very clear pipeline where the team could follow. What we are doing here, and it was clear to us, but in reality is always a bit different if you go a new way. We are on a developing pipeline for Rennsport and the beta, and at a certain point we open up a second pipeline where we said a part of the team will just focus and creating the sporting game for ESL one. We definitely need, because we have this February event, and there we have to be ready. So we have the big stage there. We have 48 drivers, the best drivers of the world. We have broadcast there. We have ESL R1 there. We cannot fuck up with our game. And to be honest, the pressure was really high. And so we switched several team members to the sporting part, really to make sure that we are ready in February. And at the end, what should I tell you? So people switched there. Cost of time on the other side, and but at a certain point we decided, okay, then we have to have the beta later. But what we always say internally, when we give something out to the sporting, to ESL, or to our community, we will do it the best way possible we can deliver. And we don't feel comfortable in February. There was a chance to release, but we said, oh, there are several parts where we maybe could have a problem. We decide, okay, we will not take the risk. But we only have one chance to give it to the community. And therefore, we would like to do it as good as possible. And there was also the idea to say, okay, we give just a single player to you for just 3-4 months. And then we all said, just having a single player is not really motivating over time. And what helps us if the community says, hey, it was fun for 2 weeks, it was nice using the single player, but what's going on? Where's the server? When can we play online? And we said, okay, let's do it right, and let's do it really good. And therefore we decided to have the beta later. And to be honest, discussion with our communication team was a nightmare for me, because they hate me, because I'm totally open to us. And at the end, they were all killing me because I'm always talking too much. But in December, they said, yeah, you said we'll do beginning of January. How should we explain? Then avoid to say anything and so on. So now, to be honest, we have a quite exact date when we plan to have the beta. And to be honest, it's really not that far away. But they said to me, you will not say anything when it comes to date or whatever. So sorry for that.
No, it's, do you know what? It's really interesting kind of hearing the rationale, because actually it kind of makes a lot of sense. If you get an opportunity like ESL R1, blending traditional esports with sim racing in order to help elevate the whole of sim racing, and obviously at Rennsport being the pinnacle of that, then that seems like a really logical thing to kind of prioritize. It comes out with consequences, which is for the beta. So that does make sense. But what it's left is a really interesting state where you have a game which is being played by esports drivers, being watched by sim racing fans, but not Rennsport players, which is really interesting. And we've spoken about this actually to a couple of guests on the podcast in the past, and when we kind of when Rennsport, because Rennsport has made a huge splash in the last year. I think probably 30% of our podcast episodes at least mentions Rennsport, or
Really?
the guests have like an opinion on Rennsport. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, of course you listen to all of the podcasts, right?
Right. Yeah, sure. But maybe I missed this.
Yeah. It's very, very quick. So, but there's a couple of things that come out of those conversations, and there's a theory. Not a theory. A theory makes it sound like a conspiracy, but something I was thinking about the way that the game has come out, in terms of it's come out for esports first, and then it will be beta and then launched, is that actually you have an incredibly committed, talented, and technically able testing team, i.e. all the teams that are competing, right? So you have this kind of, you have the best sim racers in the world testing your game and giving you feedback before the launch. So Are there any? Would you say that that's kind of like a silver line of the way this has worked out, or and are there any other silver lines? Have there been any other benefits that you found?
There are definitely two things, and we discussed it a lot. There's, I would say, the thing or the way we decided to go, starting with the sporting, having the best drivers on the world and the best teams on the world on our platform. That creates a lot of pressure for us, to be honest. On the other hand, the feedback was so straight when it comes to frames per second, when it comes to other things, and so on. And that helps us a lot to improve very quick in several things. And today, I'm super happy with all the improvements we made over the last 2 months, I would say. And they wouldn't be possible without going this way. On the other hand, I totally understand that the community, and that's the part why we are creating the game, says, hey, come on, you're telling me we are community first and you're doing a new project for us, and then you give it to some super sports guys and they could have a super prize pool with that, and we are not able to testing the game. To be honest, super fair to say that. But at a certain point, we decided what could be the right way. And we always said the sporting also has to start very early, because it will take years and years to establish it, to be honest, and to create this kind of sport. So that we really decide very early to go this way with all pros and cons. And to 100% sure, I could understand when parts of the community say, hey, come on, I don't like the idea that people on the top sporting can drive the game and we are not able to jump in. I have no argument, but maybe I could say the beta we will give to the community at the end will be so much better than the beta we would have sent out without these feedback and these learnings over the last months, to be honest.
You're working that communications team hard, man. giving them a job there. It's really interesting to watch, actually, because obviously the first couple of rounds, you look at the viewer numbers on Twitch and YouTube, the first couple of rounds of the ESL R1 tournament did really well, because you had loads of people going into to essentially take a look at the game, take a look at how it's raced, take a look at how people can race together using the physics models, and then the viewing numbers haven't necessarily kind of sustained those levels, but you're still getting still getting viewers for the ESL R1. Do you think those viewer numbers dropped after the first round because people, like you said there, because people can't relate to it because they can't drive it themselves? Do you think that's got anything to do with it?
I think there are several things. I think we have to learn how, I would say there are a lot of things we can improve when it comes to the online broadcast and the online session. We did a lot of improvements, or ESL did a lot of improvements. So I think the broadcast is getting better and better when it comes to online things. We all know or knew it will be a hard way really to establish it. To find the right broadcast for the different parts like Twitch or YouTube or whatever. So it will be a long way, and it was clear to us that it will not be easy over the first 1-2 years. And definitely, I'm with you. When the game is ready and when you have the chance to jump in and play, I think that will definitely give the next push for the sporting as well. And what we definitely learned, but it's not possible to finance at the moment, if it comes to offline races like Katowice, or like we will have in Munich in June. This is really this is the game changer. That's what the people would like to see. And for me, the biggest dream is when we are able the first time really bring or giving tickets to the community that they could be part of the summit racing in Munich or whatever. And I think these offline things, this is the thing which will help a lot to establish ESL R1 over the next years, and where we are working on to have more and more of these offline events. But therefore, we have to create the overall environment. We have to find the right sponsors and so on. But we are working on that, and the ESL R1 from this year is just a starting point, as it is with the game as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like any good business, you test, right? Everything is a test, and this is the first iteration of a tournament. So let's talk about ESL R1 just for a second, because I think what you're doing with ESL R1 is taking sim racing in the right direction. So we in our office in Gridfinder, we have Nikhil, our CTO, and then Camille, our senior software engineer, Liam on marketing, and Chris, our CIO, and they are all huge fans of traditional esports, which sounds like a weird sentence, but like CS:GO, Call of Duty, Dota, League of Legends, and so they have watched the growth of esports over the last 5 years and watched it explode, and they've seen what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what the esports community is getting right. And obviously, then they come to sim racing, and they've all done a bit of racing in the past, but not to the extent that they now do. Obviously, being part of Gridfinder, and they look at sim racing, and there's some clear lessons that we can learn. So at Gridfinder, we're trying to learn from esports, not from sim racing that exists already, because the level that sim racing at the moment is not huge. It's not sustainable. Whereas esports is that's the level that we want to kind of catch up with. And so I was really excited when I saw the ESL R1 tournament. Obviously, ESL Face It being involved in what you're doing, and more importantly, blending the teams, having sim racing teams and esport teams that compete in CS:GO, Dota, etc., together on the stage to essentially start to kind of say to the esports community, sim racing is here and it's also esports, as opposed to sim racing is an offshoot of motorsport. It's a very different distinction. And actually, this episode will actually come out after this one, but we just spoke to Josh Martin of Sim Stuff, who does a lot of live events, and we were discussing how sim racing is like motorsport and gaming combined. Now, I just got back from the SRO event at Monza where our team was competing, and they very much focus on the motorsport side of that clash, and they put the event in the paddock around the race weekend. You seem to, from my impression anyway, are focusing on the gaming side of that clash, and you're putting your events at ESL's gaming events that already exist. So talk to us a little bit about that decision. Presumably that was totally conscious. That was a conscious decision to focus on the gaming market of sim racers rather than the motorsport side.
There are several things. So I would say pushing it a bit more in the esport direction when it comes to the sporting rules was clear for us. We said if you establish a new digital motorsport, we should try to have it in the way as the consumer would like to have it. Shorter races, quicker decisions, whatever, all these things. Then we worked very close with ESL from the beginning, and that's what they learned over the last 20 years, how it works, which team size, how to promote the drivers, and so on. And to be honest, when we look at ESL, they are super successful over the last years, but they had 15 years where they fight it like hell to establish the idea they had, to create the sport. And that's what I always say when people say, okay, now you start with ESL R1, Morris, but there are not 20,000 people or viewers at the weekend. Yes, but we set the starting point, and we are willing to develop the game with ESL together and the sporting. And it will take time. And let's talk about in 3 or 4 years. I'm quite sure if we are all strong enough and not losing our idea and vision, we can create the right sport which really make digital motorsport better. And then for me, that was also a thing we had in mind from the beginning. You have to create real stars in the community. We have to create stars, and you have to create teams people like to follow. No sport can exist without stars. And to be honest, sim racing has no stars. Or there are
very few.
Not a few, but you're you have Max Benecke, and you have some names definitely, but these guys were super successful. But I'm talking about sports stars that they have 150,000 followers or whatever, and therefore you have to create the right environment, and you have to create the right sport and the right stage. Everything has to come together to create these stars. It's not that there were not great sportsmen in the past, but there wasn't the right environment to making them two stars, to be honest. And that's what we try to do. All these things, what we try to do to establish.
Interesting. And do you think that the relationship that you have with ESL is going to be, and kind of the way that you're combining your platform with their experience of broadcasting is going to be unique enough to break through the barrier that sim racing has had in terms of viewer numbers over the last 5 years? Do you think there's something there that you're going to create that's going to be this breakout moment where sim racing now fills stadiums in the same way that CSGO does?
I'm quite sure there are several things. I'm quite sure when Rennsport as a game will be successful, it will help, because creating a great esport, you always need a platform or a game which is also successful. If Rennsport will not deliver, ESLR1 Rennsport will not work that great, to be honest. This is one thing. So Rennsport has to deliver and has to be a successful platform and game over the next years. Also, we have a lot of great ideas how we can really improve with the broadcast and really make it more interesting, building more around the sporting to make it a better product for consumer at the end of the day.
Morris, thank you very much. This has been absolutely fascinating, and I could honestly just talk for hours and hours and hours more. I think you probably said it in the first 30 seconds of this podcast. You said the world waits for us. And I really think the sim racing world, at least, is definitely waiting for Rennsport with serious excitement and anticipation. And I think it's, not being another GT3 game, not being another sim racing game, trying to do something different, and pushing those boundaries of digital ownership. We're going to try it. Let's see if it works in our community. I think that's why people are excited to try this game and get their hands on it. So, Morris, thank you very much for joining me on the Sim Sundays podcast. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I look forward to watching the rest of the journey.
Thanks for having me, Tom. It was great talking to you, and see you soon.
Well, Tom, I've got to say that, even though it wasn't technically confirmed, so we don't know it's coming, the prospect of having rally and just dirt racing in there makes me want this game even more, because that's really what brought me to iRacing, is the rallycross and dirt experience over there. So if I could have two games that just give me great dirt experiences, I'm so excited for that. I hope that actually comes to fruition.
Well, yeah, like you say, he didn't confirm it. He did suggest that there was some perhaps internal modding going on to kind of test it. So there's obviously some ambition there to do rally dirt. He spoke about oval and historic cars, the tracks. He said that there would be more than 4 tracks, which, shocker, we kind of guessed that would probably be the case. But I think he hit the nail on the head when he said right at the beginning of the podcast, he said the world waits for us, and I think the sim racing world certainly is waiting for this game to come out. And I was really sympathetic towards his experiences with the NFT crypto blockchain backlash that happens, because he's trying something new. He's trying to be adventurous. He's trying to build these digital twins of cars, which is a really cool concept. I think it's just that the crypto world generally has a bad name, and it kind of rubbed off.
Yeah, it got a bad name because of the garbage that we were trying to be fed by companies like Ubisoft and the big game studios. But there are ways that it can work. I mean, look at CSGO out there with their weapon skins and how those are really NFTs that can be sold.
But they just don't brand them as NFTs. I think as soon as you start saying NFTs, blockchain, or digital ownership, people start to get suspicious.
Like, no.
I do sympathize for Morris, and it was really interesting when he was saying how kind of like emotionally attached that he was, and how he started replying to tweets about it, and then decided to stop. And it sounds like the communications team over there has had had their work cut out for them.
Give them a little call. Hey, can you stop it?
But I am very, very excited to see what comes of this game. I'm excited to see more at the summit as well, which will be very cool. So yeah, once again, thank you, Morris, for taking the time to chat to us.
Yeah, that was an amazing episode, and hopefully we can get some more Rennsport content for you guys as it gets closer and closer to the actual release date. But if you're racing in some other games and you're looking for some leagues to race in, maybe you need to change your day or you're just looking for something new, go to gridfinder.com and search for thousands and thousands of leagues that we have available there for you. Or if you're a league owner and you want to fill your grids with extra drivers or just get some new meat. That sounds weird, but anyway,
Meat does sound weird.
So get some new people up on the grids, then go list your league on gridfinder.com as well. We'd like to thank our episode sponsor, Track Racer. As always, we appreciate you putting your belief in us. And this episode 45, we are 5 away from 50. Hopefully we can come up with something pretty unique for episode 50 for that magic number, I guess, because it has a 0 at the end. Whatever. 50 is a magic number, right? But we appreciate you watching or listening, whatever your platform of choice is, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Goodbye.